Alright guys, it's finally happening. Scar, one of the most mysterious and hyped up characters in Wuthering Waves, is finally making his long-awaited return, and this time it looks like he's going to be a playable character in the upcoming updates. So today we're diving deep into everything we know about Scar so far, from his story details to his latest appearances in the version 2.4, in our current 2.7 patch, to new info and speculation surrounding his element, weapon, and possible kit design. And if you guys want to be kept updated on everything Wuthering Waves, make sure to like the video, subscribe if you haven't already, and turn on those notifications. And as always, I'll be giving out a free lunite on this video to my subscribers that like and leave a comment on this video, and the rules will be down below. But alright, let's not waste any time and jump right into it. Scar has been one of the most talked about figures in the Wuthering Waves universe ever since his first appearance in the 1.0 update. He's a high-ranking member of the Fraxidus, a faction that believes humanity should embrace the tacit discords rather than fight against them. And when it comes to the story, we see Scar that has been constantly testing Rover and Rover's ideals, pushing Rover to their limits. We first met him in the main story during the 1.0 version update, and since then, he's made some smaller appearances like in the 2.4 main story quest, most recently showing up again in the 2.7 story and trailer, confirming his official return to the game and setup for the next major arcs. So with that, what do they have planned for Scar, and what new info do we have on him being playable? Based on what's been found so far, Scar is expected to become a major antagonist throughout the 3.x story cycle, before eventually finally becoming a playable character and joining the player's side. It seems it'll be a common trend for bosses to become playable, basically following in Cartefia's footsteps, who proved to all of us that this can be possible. In version 2.4, Cartefia went from a boss character to finally become a playable character, and the twist is she can actually transform into the boss, which is a pretty cool mechanic, so hopefully they follow this with future characters. With the latest info, we think that he'll be receiving a new model during the 2.8 and 3.0 story event, as his model is all the way back from version 1.0, and they might want to revamp his design, especially for the playable release, and maybe to make him a new boss, possibly make him part of a major cutscene or boss battle. And with that, we're expecting Scar to appear once again as a weekly boss and later as a playable resonator. And for the timing of his release date, the earliest we think he'll be dropping is in the 3.1 version update, as we think that the 3.0 update is already taken by other characters and they want to flesh him out a bit more in the story before releasing him as a banner in the next updates. Alright, next up, let's talk about his gameplay and more speculation on Scar. The good thing is, we already got a preview of his gameplay inside the game, as he's been a weekly boss since the 1.0 version update, and he's based on a fusion element. So if they keep his similar style that we already seen in the game, given his fighting style and lore, for what we speculate on Scar right now is we think he'll be centered around the cards, the card attacks, domain mechanics, and transformation abilities. He's set to summon or throw cards that cause different effects, explosion, DOT effects, or buffs depending on the card type. His domain could function like a burst or ultimate skill, reshaping the battlefield and enhancing his damage, and at the very same time providing debuffs on the enemies inside of it. This will be very similar to Frolova or Trion that alters the overworld during the ultimates, so if this early info on Scar does get confirmed, that'll be pretty hype. Now another thing I can confirm which relates to Scar is how Kuro confirmed in their latest dev talk that they want to keep expanding the roster with the variation of dual forms and sub-weapon types for the upcoming resonators. It would only make sense he'll be using a rectifier as a weapon, as we've seen rectifiers have been the best way for characters to use sub-weapons in the first place, and for Scar that would definitely be his cards, so we think that'll be part of his kit. We also know Scar has a transformation in the weekly boss, so that is another possibility that they give him a similar transformation to, let's say, Cartefia. Scar would start off in his base form and then proceed to get the ult and get his big transformation. So there's a lot of things they could do with this character, a lot of potential around him. It will only make sense he'll be a rectifier and he'll be using the cards. And also for what we can expect on his element, we know that Scar is going to be the fusion element, and basically he's going to be a fusion a rectifier character. And another thing going around about Scar is that he might be the first defense scaling main DPS character that will also be providing shields to your team, but again, that is mostly speculation and not confirmed, so take that info with a grain of salt. But all we know is that Scar is definitely going to be playable in the 3.x version update, so finally, he's on the way very soon. Alright, so here's how Scar's roadmap is shaping up to look like for his appearances and what we know on him. So in the 2.7 update, we know that we got his major story reappearance, and this is basically a setup for the next arcs for maybe the 2.8 and 3.0 version update, possibly with a new reveal and weekly boss event between those updates with evolving Scar, and then we have the 3.1 version update, which is when we're expecting him to finally become a playable release and feature banner, but keep in mind that will be the earliest he'll come out. All we know is it's sometime in the 3.x version update, could be at the very beginning, could be by the very end, but at least we have a lot of more information telling us that Scar is going to be a actual playable character, which is pretty hype news. But let's say he does come out for the 3.1 version update, and this does end up being confirmed. That release window matches how Kuro games usually handle their major boss characters, building them up in the story, and then finally releasing them as playable characters, just like we saw with Cartefia. Now, Scar has always stood out a lot, especially in the Wuthering Waves story, been a very fascinating and complex character from his early story, to his role, to his mysterious ideology, and now his confirmed comeback. Everything points to him becoming a key part of the game's future, both narratively and in gameplay. If he does end up being a fusion rectifier with, let's say, his dual form and domain effects, he could easily become one of the most hyped up characters we've seen yet, combining lore, playstyle, creativity, and that trademark Scar flair that everyone loves so much about him. But yeah guys, that is everything we know and speculated so far about Scar's return in Wuthering Waves the 3.0 updates, from his lore to story build-up, his weapon, element, weapon, and playable release. There's a lot in the air right now, but at least we know that he'll be a playable character, which is pretty hype news. It's been nice to see Scar returning to the story, and from what the other sources said, Scar is indeed becoming playable very soon. So if you are hyped to finally see Scar becoming playable, let me know down below. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, turn on those notifications for all the latest Wuthering Waves updates, and feel free to do so if you also enjoyed the video. I'll be covering more about the upcoming characters very soon, especially since we have the long-awaited return of another character, and we additionally have a lot of new info about the 3.0 version update, so I'll be keeping you guys updated on all that news. Also, good luck to everyone entering the lunite giveaway. I just put out 2 winners this morning, and I'll put out more winners this week. So all you have to do is do the rules in the comments down below for those who want to check that out. And thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.